former champions eliminated after Bristol, and a potential new champion is on the rise. That only means that it is time for the round of 12. Let's preview that. Let's recap Bristol in this new episode of Above the Yellow Line. Onto the Cup race though, when I tell you my reaction to the end of this race was just all smiles, I totally mean it. There was like 100,000 fans in the stands at Bristol, and a majority of them were booing at the winner, Denny Hamlin, and his reaction was just iconic. It was, "I beat your favorite driver." All of them. Oh my God. Like, that is legendary on its own. Not only is this his 51st Cup Series win, and this places him 13th on the all-time Cup Series win list, but this also probably makes him the championship favorite. I know we throw that term around quite a bit, but I truly believe that is the case for Denny Hamlin. I think Kyle Petty made a great point that he is the only driver within this first round of the playoffs that had a chance to win every single race. Sure, you can count Kyle Larson into that too, but Denny has been consistent in terms of qualifying, in terms of speed, in terms of running up front. Backing up to those comments too, this is a different Denny Hamlin than I think we've seen in the playoffs in the past. Just straight up. He's not focused on what other people are saying. He is focused on his own journey and his own mission to finally get a championship. He's not listening to outside noise. He's blocking it out. And in fact, he's embracing the outside noise. And I think we need that personality in a sport where I feel like we are begging for personality. And of course, we're not going to like the personalities all the time. And I think the fans made that very apparent, but this is so good for the sport. Having somebody who's very vocal, who's outspoken, who is just saying it as it is. Denny is so good for the sport, and when he wins, whether the fans like it or not, it's a positive thing. And the negativity from the fan base fuels him. I mean, not only has he made enemies out of half the field probably at this point, but that means he's made enemies with half the fan base. It is good to see him embracing this side of it, and especially if he wins the championship, can you imagine? Can you imagine just the online discourse to begin with? That's going to be wild. So a great day for that 11 team, even just overall, Toyota in general. Christopher Bell won stages 1 and stages 2, of course, didn't get the race win, but a solid performance for him. 3 straight poles in a row for that 20 team. Even if we look at the 54 of Ty Gibbs, he had a race-winning car as well. Wasn't able to make it stick, fighting against Denny Hamlin for that win, but a solid day in general for Joe Gibbs Racing, for Toyota. Even if we look at the 2311 cars too, I know Bubba Wallace struggled just a little bit. We'll get into the points in a second, but even then, everybody was just on their game. And looking outside that top 10 for a second, at Carson Hocevar in that 11th position, this is the best finish for him in his Cup Series career. This is the best finish for that 42 car since last April with Ty Dillon. Very impressive for him. And even what's more impressive there is that he got this finish with a loose wheel still. Like, you would have thought that with the loose wheel, it would have ended his night. He would have finished probably outside the top 20. Not for Carson Hocevar though. So whoever is getting him as their driver in 2024, we are pretty sure it's a Cup Series ride at this point. They are lucky. They are getting a true talent. With the conclusion of Bristol, though, that means that there are 4 drivers eliminated from the playoff fight. Those are Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, Kevin Harvick, and Joey Logano. Though the stats hold true for Logano, he usually does not make the championship for an odd-numbered years. This holds. So for those who love the stats and love for trends to carry over, that this is good for you if you are a Joey Logano fan. I am so sorry that this trend continues to progress through the years. Going into the season, we knew that Fords had an aero disadvantage, and as the season progressed, we knew that Penske was not at the top of their game. If we look at this round of the playoffs though, and the drivers eliminated, 3 of the 4 are Ford drivers. Michael McDowell though, nothing to leave this round disappointed about. They had a rough first and second races. They just didn't go their way, but he did finish this race in the 6th position. They did all that they could, something to be proud of for that team, that they were legitimate contenders for that title this year. Joey Logano was another driver that just couldn't do anything else differently. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught in a wreck in the final stage with Corey LaJoie and Ty Dillon just kind of sandwiched with those Spire cars. This damage broke one of the control arms on the car, and obviously just, you cannot fix that. And Joey Logano was hopeful that maybe somebody else would slip up during the playoffs, whether it be maybe Bubba Wallace or Martin Truex Jr. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for him, and he was eliminated from the playoffs. He did, though, which I appreciate, take this loss like a champ would. And he said, you know, the only thing I could have done better, or what we should have done, is we should have run better going into this weekend. And honestly, for somebody who is a championship driver in that equipment, especially knowing how solid I think Joey usually is at Bristol, just from my memory, he shouldn't have been riding near the back of the pack. And I think that was the case for a lot of playoff drivers during this race. A lot of them struggled big time, but they were able to advance where Joey Logano wasn't. Same story with Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick had the quote of the evening, which was so disappointing. And he basically said, you know, we kind of got got what we deserved. And I hate that for him, and he's ending his career not advancing to the round of 12. I don't think that's at all what that team deserved based on their grit, tenacity, and drive this entire season. But based on the equipment that they brought to Bristol, there was just no way. With those eliminations, the points reset to 3,000 plus the playoff points that these drivers have earned. So Martin Truex Jr. and William Byron find themselves at the top of the list yet again. And Bubba Wallace moves on to the next round, but he is yet again at the very bottom of the playoff grid. So just went from relief to panic yet again for that team, but he carried himself very, very well. I love seeing his emotion following that race, learning that he made it to the next round. Anyone who doubted him, definitely proven wrong from that 23 team. Michael Jordan was also at the track too, so cool to see him celebrate with the entire team. As the drivers stand, it is Byron, Truex, Hamlin, Larson, Buescher, Busch, Bell, Reddick, and the first four on the outside looking in is Chastain, Keselowski, Blaney, and Wallace. And for those keeping score, yes, my pre-playoff bracket was kind of off. I at least got McDowell and Stenhouse right that they would not move on to the round of 12. Obviously, though, Ryan Blaney and Ross Chastain move on to the next round, which I am very happy for. I didn't have a lot of faith in them going into the round of 12, but I'm glad I was proven wrong. Rating this race, what did we think about the Bristol night race? I feel like everyone was kind of divided online about this, whether you loved it, whether you hated it. Some people that were there even DM'd me and were like, hey Taylor, this race sucked, and I was at the race. For me though, this was a positive step in the right direction for short track racing. I feel like it was one of the more entertaining, or I guess not as detrimental short track races that we have had the past 2 seasons. Goodyear brought a new tire to this track specifically for those right sides to promote more tire wear. I actually felt like that helped a little bit. There were reports from drivers that they had their right side tires cording a little bit, but I feel like we had more tire wear to where it actually helped this racing. Thinking historically about Bristol too, it kind of has been a one groove type of track where you're hugging the bottom line, and if you move out of line, you're booted to the back. That's just kind of classic Bristol. For this race though, I felt like we had more options. I was nervous with that PJ1 that they applied to the track, that with the rain and the weather, it wasn't going to help at all, but I feel like it kind of did. We at least had like 2 or even just by the end of the race, maybe 3 grooves that worked for these drivers near the end. And I feel like the issues we have seen with dirty air at the short tracks and at the road courses were not as prevalent this time around. You were able to catch up to the leader. Obviously, I think lap traffic had a lot to do with getting to the leader and being able to make these passes, but it wasn't as noticeable of an issue this time as it has been in last races with dirty air. That said, I feel like this might be a little too high, so in chats, if you want to roast me, but I feel like this is going to be an 82% above the yellow line. I could probably go down to like a 77%, but I feel like 82 is fine. I'm so glad that rain didn't disrupt this race as much as I thought it could have. I didn't think we were going to go the full distance. Luckily, though, we did. And I think we got a pretty entertaining race out of it based on my opinion of what I saw. I don't know, but you all might have a different opinion, but at least an 82% above the yellow line for me. Bristol's in the rearview mirror. Looking ahead to the round of 12, we have Texas, Talladega, and the Roval. And looking at drivers who I think benefit from these tracks, they're actually below or around that cutoff line. I'm talking about Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, even Tyler Reddick. These are good tracks for those drivers, but honestly though, what I like about this round, as chaotic as it is, any driver has a chance to excel or fail in this round because there is a track for any type of driver. Whether you favor road courses, there's a road course for you. If you are a super speedway racer and that's your chance to advance to the next round, you got a super speedway. We also have a 1.5 miles in Texas. And granted, I know not everybody likes Texas Motor Speedway, but last year with the Gen 7 car, I felt like the racing was a little bit better. So I have hope for it this year. But this round shouldn't be a total washout for one of these drivers. So it's going to be interesting. And I see the points being very close when we reach the Roval. It should be very, very exciting heading into that race. That is a cutoff race to the round of 8. Like I said, that Roval race is going to be intense, and I'm excited to be there in person reporting live for TobyChristie.com and Above the Yellow Line. Make sure to check out our websites. Again, TobyChristie.com and Above the Yellow Line for more NASCAR and motorsports news. Check out our social media pages and join our live streams Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week we have our special guest, Stephen Malazzi, joining us driving the number 22 truck, the Outback truck. This past weekend at Bristol, he's going to talk about his experience there and catch us up to date on what we've missed since the last time he joined the show. In the meantime, make sure to like this page, follow all of our social media platforms, and turn on notifications so you know when the newest NASCAR news drops. Thank you all for the support, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye. We had 2 great guests on the streams the past 2 weeks. To hear our conversations with Matthew Dillner, click on the video on the right, and to hear our conversation with Greg Stump from Off Axis Paint, click the video on the left. More content linked in the description below.